What happens when a world-class nutritionist uses blood panels, cellular biology, and fact-based science to create and monitor healthy eating plans with supplements for her clients? Everyone wins. Welcome to Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy, an educational experience that gives you both the actionable and practical tools you can use every day to get your health, weight, and life back on track.
There are thousands of things that regulate the metabolism. What I want to do is break down the most important ones. To me, they're the most important because they're the ones that we can fairly easily impact and make a significant change in your current metabolic rate. So it's all about igniting that burn, how we can burn through food to produce energy, and how we can take that energy to build healthy structure, healthy muscle, collagen, and elastin. Let's get this party started. Okay, so let's talk about enzymes. Without enzymes, nothing can happen. It is how we take food and convert it into nutrients. So whenever somebody says, I take digestive enzymes or my enzymes are off, I want you to think about the fact that they're not realizing the vitamins, the minerals, the amino acids that come from whatever they've consumed. They are a catalyst. They evoke change. One of the things that happens with enzymes is that they actually power the metabolic pathways. So it is like, let's say you have this amazing home with this beautiful lamp. If you don't plug it in, you can't power the lamp. And that is what enzymes do. A lot of people think of them like a lock and key. And there's some new theories on that. That was a little while ago that they first came up with that theory. But if we kind of stick with the thought of maybe plugging something into a light socket, thinking of the enzymes being the plug so that you can power that beautiful lamp that you have. So what happens sometimes is either the hormones can block the receptor sites, the light socket, right? Imagine putting gum in your light socket. Therefore, the enzymes can't realize the electrical surge to power that lamp. They're really therefore responsible for a lot of adaptation. So how you adapt to stress, how you adapt to cold weather, how you adapt to maybe a fracture in the body. Enzymes really regulate that rate of healing, that rate of efficiently repairing broken down tissue, and also dictating what tissues get broken down. So we want to have good, healthy enzymatic secretion so that you can determine that you want to break down fat tissue for fuel. There's not a lot of great lab tests for enzymes. We use kind of a DIY digestive reserve test. I teach a whole class on the pH and digestive reserves, but you might want to go ahead and peek at that because it's totally available to you and see about testing your own digestive reserves. I also added a little video that shows you in action what an enzyme can do to break down complex carbohydrates. It's pretty profound. So enzymes are probably the number one thing that regulates your rate or metabolic rate. Remember, they are what speed up and slow down biochemical processes. A really good way to think of this, and they're also found only secreted by the body. You can supplement with them, but they are found in nutrient-rich organic foods. So let's use the Twinkie as an example. A Twinkie can stay around for years, if not decades, without breaking down. When if you have an organic loaf of bread on the cabinet or a fresh, beautiful tomato on the cabinet, you'll notice that over time that'll break down. It'll mold, it'll soften, it will rot, where the Twinkie will not. The reason that is because the natural foods possess enzymes that break down complex carbohydrates. Again, that break down that food, those macromolecules into micromolecules, the nutrients that actually regulate everything about the metabolism. So many times when the enzymes are off with individuals, you'll notice that you have cravings or you're hungry even when you've eaten. And that again is because you're not realizing the food that you've consumed because it's not being broken down efficiently so that your body can accept the micronutrients. Or perhaps, like we talked about the light the socket going into the plug going into the light socket, you might not have the ability to plug in because your receptor sites are blocked. And we're going to talk about that in hormones. The thing that's also unique is that enzymes and their activities reliant on vitamins. Remember, the closer you can get to patting the farmer on the back or growing foods yourself, the more vitamin-rich foods are, the longer they stay on the vine, the less travel that they have to make, and the more they're raised in organic, rich soils. So if we recognize that enzymes have this huge impact on your metabolism, that yes, you can supplement with them, but it's really important that you have a good reserve within your body and that we increase and entice that by the foods that we choose, that they're enzyme promoting. You can see that this is kind of really the cornerstone of getting your metabolism unstuck. So it is incredibly difficult to get a body healthy, to rebalance the immune system or the blood sugar or the cholesterol or the rate of burn without addressing hormones. So with all of my students, and now that you're my student, I'm going to tell you that unless we work on this, it is going to be hard to realize and achieve the success that you deserve, that your family deserves, that maybe your own clients deserve. So let's distill this down a little bit and talk about hormones happen in pathways. But remember, enzymes are what speed up and slow down those pathways. They work in feedback loops. So positive impact begets positive hormones, negative impact begets negative hormones, and negative impact can even create a slowing of production of the hormones. We're going to talk about organs and glands a little bit later, but the hormones regulate all of behavior, what you think and how you feel about everything. They regulate adaptation to things in a feedback loop. So for example, they tell you that you think a particular comedian is funny. They tell you that you're afraid of maybe scary movies, or maybe you love scary movies. It's those hormones that are little messengers or signals that travel all over the body to tell your story to cells. Whether they're telling your story to lung cells and maybe you're asthmatic and you know that you react to cat hair. They're what tell your brain that story when you walk into a house and a kitty rubs up against your leg. They're what tell your story that you maybe attack your own tissue in an autoimmune environment, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis, food allergies, inhalant allergies, lupus, MS. It is the hormones that go around the body as these messengers and tell yourselves to grow hair or have hair fall out because you don't have the appropriate nutrients and enzymes available to continue that production of hair. They travel from far away. So let's say, for example, you secrete a hormone in the ovaries, in the lower quadrant of the body. That hormone, like estrogen, travels upward towards the breast, looking for receptor sites or cells that can understand their message. Sometimes that message gets either distorted, and that's when we don't metabolize our hormones efficiently, and we have an odd-shaped hormone like reverse T3. I talk a lot about that in the fast metabolism diet. Maybe the thyroid produces this lovely T4, this lovely thyroid molecule, and when our body cleaves or starts to break that down so that it can fit into the receptor sites, remember enzymes, people, are what break it down so that you can put that plug into the light socket, but it cleaves it in a weird angle, and therefore you have a 3-prong plug and only a 2-hole socket. So sometimes that happens, and other times, like we talked about, things like toxins can block hormone receptor sites. So when we look at hormones, we look at lipids, fats. Our body manufactures all of our hormones from lipids or fats. So for example, the cholesterol molecule, we make estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, pregnenolone, DHEA, vitamin D. Metabolism is responsible on metabolizing fats. So you'll notice I have a lot of different programs to support and nurture the complexity of the hormone and hormone pathways. We have labs that you can suggest your practitioner runs in our Food RX book, as well as in the Fast Metabolism diet. But the biggest thing that I want you to think about with hormones is that they are the messengers, and they are what tells the story to all of the cells. So if we're going to start changing our reality from a health perspective, whether that's weight loss or anti-inflammatory or reversing diabetes or fixing cholesterol, we have to get the message out. And the messenger's the pathway, the message is the secretion of the hormones, and the realization of the message and the rate of message delivery are those enzymes. So it's important in this process, or should I say essential. That's why I called this Metabolism Essentials. It's important in this process that I get your buy-in to your body, that you grasp the gravity and the complexity of what's going on. And even when it feels like it's out of control or in a total state of dysfunction, that you're still in awe of what all you are pulling off each and every day. So as we talk about, messengers and things, the hormones and things that allow you to realize the message, the enzymes, I want to talk about the down and dirty, the organs, glands, and systems that kind of actually do all this work. So I lead with the liver. It is the most nutrient-dependent organ. So it is the organ that's going to really flourish the most and quickly when we flood the body with targeted micronutrients. And the liver is the chemical processing plant of the body. So when I talk about the body not being able to realize the positive message of a hormone, there being gum in the light socket, the liver makes sure it's the gum cleaner, it's the janitor of the body. It makes sure that there is nothing blocking those hormone receptor sites. It helps process alcohol, chemicals, toxins every single day, every moment. It is a life-saving vehicle in the body. So as I talk about different foods that feed different things, I want you to know when I say we're going to really focus on the liver and how it converts fat into that master hormone, pregnenolone, so that we can create all of the other hormones. Remember, those messengers, we're going to talk about that organ. There's a particular phase of liver detoxification. It's called phase 2 of liver detoxification. There's a group of enzymes, cytochrome P450, where the body takes fat-soluble toxins and converts them to things that we can actually eliminate. I'm going to distill this down a little bit. When we have fat-soluble toxins, think of those as garbage. If there is not a way to bag that garbage and take it away, we bag it and we store it somewhere, maybe in our garage, maybe in the basement until it's time to take out the trash. Ours is Wednesday. That garbage bag is adipocytes or fat cells. So when the liver is converting toxins and it's not something that we flush down the toilet or rinse down the sink, it's not safe to do that, and it's something that we have to bag to be later taken away, it does that by proliferating fat cells. So think of the liver as it is what makes hormones bioavailable. It's got a lot of enzyme secretion, but it is the powerhouse for making sure that the body doesn't call on fat or signal fat to proliferate in order to deal with toxins. I then want to talk about the thyroid. A lot of people talk about the thyroid and metabolism regulation. It's so true. In the fast metabolism diet, there's labs to run, I've got a million blog posts on the thyroid. The one thing that I want you to think about is that it is the most sensitive gland to toxins and stress. It's one of the reasons why if there's a nuclear spill, they have people take iodine. The thyroid the tissue has a very strong receptor sites for iodine, so it goes in and it kind of takes the place of, it kind of blocks all the ability for the body to, the tissue of the thyroid, to absorb that radioactive material. So iodine acts as a shield and it protects the thyroid. It's why when you have x-rays, you should always ask for a thyroid shield to protect that gland. It produces thyroid hormones, and it's very connected to the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the pituitary. So as I talk about hormones being the messengers, right, telling your body's story, the pituitary is kind of that conductor of that messenger. It is the one that makes sure that everything is playing in harmony in your hormone symphony. So when we talk about foods that are really pituitary specific, or a program that helps really the pituitary, it's helping that conductor have those fine skills to look at the entire orchestra and say, it sounds like the bass needs to be a little bit quarter note different, or faster or slower, or it sounds like the violin, we need 4 there instead of 5. So that conductor is really, really important. The pancreas, and I want you guys to know this because there's so much information and data out there, and they say, oh, this is hard on the pancreas or good for the pancreas, but I want you to know what the heck these things do. So the pancreas is both an organ and a gland, but anytime you think of digestive enzymes, or you think of diabetes, insulin resistant, anything associated with the blood sugar, I want you to be giving that pancreas lots and lots of love. The pancreas produces insulin. It is what's responsible. It works a little hand in hand with the liver to create the production of alkaline ash, so to help maintain the pH. Digestive reserves like lipase, amylase, things to break down foods, complex carbohydrate breaking down, like that video that you're going to watch, shows pancreatic-based enzymes just metabolizing those efficiently. So the pancreas both produces enzymes, but it also produces hormones, specifically insulin, which, remember, insulin goes around and it gives sugar a big, huge hug in the bloodstream. And as long as it has the right enzymes, this hormone will take that hugged up sugar right to your cell, and it'll release it into the cell so that it can be broken down for energy. If we're insulin resistant, or we don't possess the proper enzymes for that hormone to plug into that wall, remember, if we accidentally have a 3-plug prong and a 2-hole socket, we can't get that sugar up into the cell to be metabolized. It's either stored as fat, it causes nerve issues like in diabetes, neuropathy, or it's loved up and balanced well and taken up into the cell for energy. So I want to talk a little bit about our substance in the body. Our bone, our collagen, our elastin. This substance is a resource. When our metabolism is not providing or realizing or recognizing nutrients in a healthy way, when metabolic pathways have become altered, or when the metabolism of a hormone or a neurochemical has become dysfunctional, we start to leach. First, usually from collagen and elastin, we get real crepey skin, we get loose skin, where we get cellulite bulging out of the connective tissue. It then also pulls significantly from the bone, where we start to see osteopenia, osteoporosis. So think of this structure that we have as our crisis savings account. We don't want to dip into those reserves. But if you're noticing, if you're starting to get labs back, or you're noticing a change in the structure of the body, know that's a big signal that your body is very wisely using that crisis reserve in order to maintain the best possible health that it can. So we're looking at kind of these top things that regulate the metabolism in structure and in function. And so now when we go on and we talk about programs, I want you to constantly refer back to these last couple slides to go, okay. I know why it's so important that I put power on my plate in a very specific way to evoke the changes that I desire. The final factor that I want to talk about affecting your metabolism is genetic expression. And I don't just say your genes, but I use the term genetic expression because you have to actually have the propensity in your genes, but something has to happen to allow those dysfunctional pathways to be turned on. We know for sure that things like free radical damage or toxins or stress can turn on a genetic predisposition. It can be anything like elevated blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, diabetes, autoimmunity. There can be definitely that stage that's set for the body to express some sort of chronic disease or dysfunction. But I'm here to tell you that you can change whether those genes are expressed or the dysfunction is expressed in your metabolism. So remember that the hormones tell the story and the enzymes allow the realization of that story. And the organs and the glands and the structure are what create all of those. All of this is nutrient dependent. When we get exposed to stress and toxins, that's when things go awry. If you already have the genetic predisposition, it's almost as if it's your family historical story or pattern, or what I like to call like a pathway that's really entrenched in the road. It's very easy for your tire in your car to go into that divot, right? If you have family history of things, you want to be very aware of nurturing the metabolic pathways so that you realize positive health and you don't realize metabolic dysfunction. For example, the National Institute of Health is now saying that diabetes is a disorder of the metabolism, that MS is a disorder of the metabolism. And what they mean by that is when the hormone secretion is not either efficient or it's not metabolized in a balanced way, or the enzymatic production is not efficient so that we can realize a positive metabolic path.
Thank you for listening to another inspiring episode of Power on Your Plate with Haylie Pomroy. Please remember to share the amazing science and tools with someone you love. The more we know, the more we all lift our global health together. Visit www.hayliepomroy.com to get notes from today's show and to take your education and health to a new level of success and happiness.
Information on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for the advice provided by your physician or other healthcare professional or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging. You should not use the information on this podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease or prescribing any medication or other treatment. You should always speak with your physician or other healthcare professional before taking any medication or nutritional, herbal, or homeopathic supplement or adopting any treatment for a health problem. If you have or suspect that you have a medical problem, promptly contact your healthcare provider. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking professional advice because of something you've heard on this podcast. Information provided on this podcast and the use of any products or services purchased as a result of this podcast does not create any type of professional relationship between you and any of the associates affiliated with this podcast. Information and statement regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.